right, I think it's time to get started. Welcome to the Noyce Town Hall and discussion with program officers, co-hosted by the American Association for the Advancement of Science and the National Science Foundation. Thanks so much for joining us. We will have multiple opportunities today for you to share your ideas in breakouts. For now, if you haven't done so, please take a moment to introduce yourself in the chat. My name is Jennifer Carinci, and I am a program director at AAAS and PI of our Noyce Award. Closed captioning is available by clicking the CC at the bottom of your screen. Today's program is designed to spark ideas and promote best practice exchange and crowdsourcing of solutions around the critical areas of STEM teacher recruitment and retention in high-need school districts. Following my remarks, we will hear from some of your former Noyce scholars and fellows, as well as from NSF Program Officer Tom Kim, who co-planned this session. Thanks so much, Tom. Then we will dive into the topic of recruitment with 5 veteran PIs sharing some of their best tips. These will be used to seed discussion that will subsequently occur in breakouts and allow all to contribute further suggestions. Next, we will transition to the topic of retention and proceed similarly with learnings from 4 experienced PIs, followed by an idea exchange in retention-focused breakout conversations. As we go, please enter your questions and additional thoughts and resources in the chat for Noyce community response. All of you here are experts on these topics. After we get some final recorded wisdom from program graduates, we will move into breakouts with cognizant NSF program officers to allow for more intimate discussion. We are recording this session. Slides are available, and my colleague will be dropping the link in the chat. The video archive will also be available later for your reference. For those of you who may be unfamiliar with AAAS, we are the world's largest multidisciplinary scientific society and publisher of the Science family of journals. I encourage you to check out our Inclusive STEM Ecosystems for Equity and Diversity, or ISEED, as we call it for short, unit that is home to many programs around broadening participation and strengthening the STEM workforce through education. This includes our work with the Noyce program, where our support fosters research, innovation, and connections across Noyce PIs through in-person and virtual professional development convenings like today, as well as research generation and dissemination via our RISE initiative, to which we hope you will all become contributors. And a huge thank you to those of you who already are. Check out our nsfnoyce.org and AAAS-arise.org websites for further resources and opportunities. Finally, thanks to many of you for nominating outstanding educators trained in your programs to make a difference in high-need school districts across the country. We hope you are as inspired as we are after hearing from these amazing teachers.
When they finally break down and tell you something's the matter. Like when we were on the online at the very beginning of the year, we started out online. You know, you would see them, they would come on, you'd do your little class and you'd say hi. But it became one of those when the 1 or 2 would stay behind and they just needed to talk to somebody. When we transitioned to hybrid, and it was those kids in school, you know, always coming to my class and asking questions about the work, or kids who are not even in my class coming in just to do the experiments we were doing just because they wanted to learn and they wanted to do stuff. And then for the paper packet kids, it was them just calling me. Even if it was out of the blue in the middle of class, I'm like, okay, I'm not going to tell them no. You know, I would stop my class, give them something to do so I can talk with my kid who took 5 minutes to try to find a hill to call me from to ask me a question. And, you know, and I didn't take these little moments for granted. I took every single one of them and I made the best of every single one because I knew how hard it was for me, and I could just imagine how hard it was for them to just do those little things. So, you know, I took all of those little moments as just huge wins.
The thing I'm most proud of are definitely my students. I have students who routinely struggle in a traditional learning setting who, finally come to me and say, I get it. I understand what we're talking about here. And I have one student in particular, who's kind of pictured right here. He wrote a nice little highlight for me for the Fayette County Public Schools STAR program. And basically he said he was able to be successful in financial literacy because of one of my money skills classes that I taught. And that just really warms my heart.
The thing that I'm most proud of teaching has been the local news award that I received. It's the Golden Apple Award here in South Carolina from WYFF. And the reason why it's means so much to me is it is nominated by students or students' parents. And in this case, it was actually a student I taught my very first year teaching. When I was, I get emotional just thinking about it because it just means so much to me. But when I was just trying my best to make sure I showed up on time, a lot of times we don't realize the impact that we're making. And this student, she had already gone to high school. And so it had been 4-ish years since I had taught her. And she still looked back at the time with me and felt that it was enough for her to write an essay to submit it. And I found out this was the second time that she had submitted me. It really drives home that as teachers, we make a difference, and we may not realize it at the time, but eventually you'll see how, hopefully you'll get to see what a difference you make to these kids.
My national board certification, it was just something that was the most rewarding challenge I've ever faced. And I was just so proud of myself once I earned it. Before this project, I'm not sure I even knew what national board certification was or what it entailed. And once I, jumped into it and just saw the process, the thought, everything that goes into it, I was just very proud of myself for having finished it. And I definitely, hands down to anyone who attempts it or even pursues it, and definitely for those who earn it, it's just such a great thing that I think more people need to know about and try.
I guess I'm proud of, the relationships I've built with students, the fact that I've been able to connect with students who are quite different than me. So I'm proud of that. And I'm also proud of the fact that I've been able to kind of take it beyond my own classroom a little bit. I'm the chair of our math department at the school. And I've actually been able to use, I think, a lot of what I got through my education at Mills and through the Noyce and the kind of ongoing support that comes with that to, I feel, be a teacher. I have confidence in myself that I can offer, that I have some ideas about how to become a better teacher, how to do inquiry. And I bring that to my department and help other teachers kind of, do inquiry on their own teaching and try and do their own professional development in that way. And I've gotten a lot of good feedback from teachers that I work with that they really appreciate that.
Well, you should all be really proud of the great work that you do that makes moments like these possible. And now I have the pleasure of introducing Tom Kim, NSF Program Officer, who was the inspiration behind these inspiring videos. Tom?
Thank you, Jennifer. I don't know that I ought to be taking credit for any of that because all of the heavy lifting was on the part of the scholars themselves, but thanks for that. Welcome, everybody. And once, as Jennifer said, I'm Tom Kim. I am one of the program officers in the Noyce program. I am a program director in the Division of Undergraduate Education at NSF. And it's been my pleasure to help lead the effort that led to the assembly of this town hall. Before we get started, I want to extend my gratitude to AAAS and the team there that put all of this together, Jennifer, Betty, Lauren, and Thomas, who are working in the background. I hope that you will find this to be a rewarding and an exceptional experience. Furthermore, I don't do this by myself. There is a whole team at NSF that is responsible for overseeing the Noyce program. First and foremost, there are the program leads, Sandra Richardson and Kathleen Bergen. my other colleagues, Sue Carson, Michelle Camacho, Mike Ferrara, Bonnie Green, John Haddock, and Bob Mays. In addition, I have the sad news to share that we will be bidding farewell to Jennifer Lewis, whose rotation at NSF is coming to a close soon. So any of you who have Jennifer as your Cognizant Program Officer, take the time to wish her well, please. We're grateful for her service to the program. On the bright side, we are joined by Mindy Capaldi, who is an incoming program officer. None of you have been assigned to her yet, but if you have been, or will be in the future, then this is a chance to actually potentially bump into her somewhere in the Zoom sphere. And so before we commence with this, I was tasked with giving comments to open the meeting, and I hate doing that sort of thing. The benefit of having the scholars speak before me is what they said was so inspirational that nobody's going to remember anything that I said. So if I bumble this, it'll be okay. But in thinking about the theme and considerations for all of you, I was reminded of something that John Kennedy said back almost 60 years ago when talking about the development of the moon mission that led to Apollo 11 and the landing on the moon. And he said that we choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard, because that goal will serve to organize and measure the best of our energies and skills. And with that said, I think with all due respect, we could also speak and inform President Kennedy about a thing or two with respect to things that are hard. First and foremost, by signing up for Noyce and tasking yourselves with recruiting STEM majors to become teachers, that is hard. And what we didn't bargain for is that you would all be teaching in the midst of a global pandemic, that you would be tending to the needs of scholars through mentoring through Zoom. All of that is a triple threat of hardness, and all of you have done all of those things at exactly the same time. If you were to ask anybody up front, they would say, that's crazy talk, nobody would do that. And yet, here you are. And so with those thoughts, I want to extend my kudos and thanks to all of you on behalf of the Noyce team and the entire Noyce community. I want to thank you and applaud you for all you have done to persevere in these hard times. As the words of the scholars who spoke before me so clearly demonstrate, what you have accomplished is not just hard, it's inspirational. So I hope that in this time that we have together, you can take a moment to appreciate everything that you've done and share in each other's collective successes. And I hope that with some of the things that you hear and learn today, we can collectively maybe make what we do a little bit less hard moving forward. Thank you for being here. I hope you have a great time, and I look forward to chatting with you as the time commences.
Thanks so much, Tom. And continuing on the theme of things that are hard, we're going to hear a little bit from some of our PIs who make the sometimes difficult topic of recruitment look a little bit easy. So they're going to share their tips, their trials, their successes related to recruitment. And we'll hear from Andre Green, Elizabeth Lewis, Lisa Gonzalez, Natalie King, and Stacey Duffield. And the really hard part is they've been asked to keep it to 5 minutes, all their wealth of knowledge that they have. But very excited to hear the presentations. And first up, we have Andre Green. Take it away, Andre.
Thank you so much. My name is Andre Green. I'm the Associate Vice President for Academic Affairs at the University of South Alabama. So I'm gonna take you through a real quick story since you just got awarded. And I was sitting in your positions. I can't believe I'm saying this 12, 13 years ago, but it's actually been that long since I've had my first Noyce award. One of the first things that I can tell you about recruitment is to make your program award a big deal. All right, you have to make it a big deal, meaning that everybody from the president to your dean to your department chair, everybody must know about your award, because of the way that you get buy-in, the way that you make sure that everybody is aware of what you're doing is to just make sure that they know. And so what I did when I first got my award is that I had a reception so that I can invite all the key people around campus in order to make sure that they knew about the award. And that was from my financial aid people, my student accounts people, because, if people default on their loans, somebody has to chase them down. I had my advisors from academic affairs and career services. I had department chairs from science and mathematics. I had everyone there. And then we gave them an idea of what the grant was about over a meal, because on a college campus, that everybody likes to kind of eat and get a free lunch. And so that was the first thing that I had to do. So I had to get the program integrated within the university. The second thing I did, I started to having recruitment or advertisements amongst the students of the university. I got the list of every science and mathematics major at the university who was about to graduate, and we started sending them emails. We started doing advertisements within our school newspaper so that I can build a buzz. My program, which is Pathway to Science and Pathway to Mathematics, these was two of them. I had a particular part in there called a pre-residency experience, because I truly believe that just because you want to be a teacher doesn't mean you should be a teacher. And, this shouldn't be a one-off for you. That's something I'm gonna do this until I find this to do. So what I did, we designed within this particular program a 10-week experience where people who wanted to try teaching out, they could go into the schools for 10 weeks at a middle school and a high school, and they can actually see whether or not they like teaching. And like for my numbers here, even though these are my 2017 numbers that I sent, we have at least 10, 15 more people that were produced in each of the programs. We've had some that say, no, I don't think teaching is for me. And for me, that was a good thing, because I didn't want to invest the money that NSF has entrusted to the university in producing a teacher who didn't want to be there. Because once they, take the money, they are obligated to teach 2 years for every year of support. So we kind of made sure that the students themselves knew what they were getting into before they accepted the award. So we went through all that. And then we got, cohorts of people going through. But my very first cohort and cohorts after that, we actually made it a big day where the president got involved, the deans got involved, and we had a national signing day. I did it just like you do at a Division I school, where we are Division I, where we have a signing day for our football players and basketball players and things of that nature. I mean, I had the mascots there, the president, and we had an official signing, and it was covered by the news and everything. So, I created a buzz on campus. And so my first cohort of people actually became my recruiters for my second cohort of people. I treated my scholars, so I treated them like the kings and queens that they were. They didn't have anything that wasn't met within, the rules and regulations of the grant, of course, where we did the conference trips. I made everyone else on campus envious of them. So I wanted everyone to want to be them. And so that's how I got my start in terms of recruiting people for our Noyce grants here at South Alabama. Our first set, we're about to end in our Pathway to Science and Math will end next year. But we have a buzz, and we're going to continue to try to produce excellent teachers. And so I hope that was 5 minutes.
Yes, it was. Thank you, Andre.
Okay.
Perfect.
All right.
Making it look easy already. I knew we had a good lineup of speakers. Thanks, Andre, for the reminders that the work you guys do recruiting teachers is a big deal and is a team sport. So next up, we have Beth Lewis.
Thanks. Andre, you're a hard act to follow. Those are some fantastic ideas. I'll do my best here. So University of Nebraska-Lincoln is set in a fairly suburban area. We're about 300,000 people in Lincoln proper. We're about an hour from Omaha. So we were able to kind of, geographically recruit people from about an hour around Lincoln. So that includes a lot of rural, smaller towns, as well as Lincoln and Omaha. So we did okay initially. We were fortunate enough to get, we've had 2 track 1 grants from NSF, phase 1 and phase 2. So we actually had about 10 years worth of funding. I only put in some data here for about 8 years. But you can see just in this sort of challenges in recruiting folks. At first it was very easy and deceptively so. I think we had a lot of people who were very keen for this sort of 14-month master's level program for becoming a science teacher. We had always had post-bac master's people who wanted to become science teachers through that route rather than an undergraduate degree program. And they were, the issue had been that it was taking like 24 months or more, 36 months, 3 years sometimes for people to become science teachers. So people were very excited to see this 14-month route to becoming a science teacher, basically a 1-year certification plus master's degree. So initially we had a lot of enthusiasm. We had press releases, we had a lot of local news coverage, and that was fantastic. And so recruitment came easy, and that was deceptive. It was also in a recession year, and so there were a lot of people who were looking for more stable employment, but also, you know, to be fair, people who really did want to become science teachers. So we were able to capitalize that and did really well our first couple of years with, you know, we had 14 folks in our first year, 16 in our second. So we thought, oh, this is great. Now we still tried to recruit people. We were regularly sending notes out to alumni through science departments, connecting with science department chairs on campus, student advisors. We wanted to make sure that we were reaching out to student groups. We also were trying very hard to look at some areas like earth and space science and physics, which we can never really get enough teachers in field. So that was very challenging. It continued to be very challenging throughout. We had, I think, a little bit more luck with physics than earth and space science. But we actually went and, you know, I made some presentations to student science club meetings or advisory meetings that were required in the physics department. And that was good. Word of mouth definitely helped us out. After we got a first couple of cohorts out there, we certainly were able to, you know, get people who's in later cohorts who said, oh yeah, I have a friend who recommended the program. We also had a great hiring record of our graduates, and so that really helped our cause, as well as you know, having very highly qualified science teachers that administrators knew they could rely upon to do a great job and be very committed to the classroom. We placed our scholars in diverse settings, so they were well prepared, especially for their service requirements. So that helped, I think. Our general recruiting strategies that I haven't already mentioned held monthly info sessions on campus for interested applicants. So that might have only been a handful of people, but it made it a little bit more efficient. And then if need be, we'd meet with them one-on-one. We did a lot of previewing of transcripts to make sure that if there were any missing science courses for certification, that maybe that could get done before entry into the program, since the program was very intense. And then we tried to keep careful track of who we'd made contact with and tried to reach out to people who still hadn't applied to see if they're still interested. Emailing professional science societies was helpful as well. And then with our second grant, actually was interviewed for the news, for the local news, and that helped generate more interest. And while I didn't put the last 2 years of our cohorts in there for data, we ended up averaging about 9 or 10 folks per cohort. Initially, that average was in the first grant was more like 12. So you can see the numbers went up and down, and that in some ways I think reflected just the pool of people who were available and interested, and also just our, you know, increased efforts to try to recruit more people to make sure. And then we had the great support of NSF, of course, to make sure that we spent all the money, which we did. We're delighted to have ended up supporting about 90 folks through both grants. And Dr. Bergen was very supportive in terms of making sure that we had 1 year no cost extension so we could use up all the money.
Great. Thanks so much, Beth, for sharing the realities of recruiting, and especially for the emphasis on the relationship between recruiting and what happens after the program, and that being an important selling point. All right, next up, we have Lisa Gonzalez.
Hi, everybody. How are you all doing? My name's Lisa Gonzalez, and I've gotten 3 Noyce grants over the years to prepare STEM teachers, 2 for middle secondary candidates and 1 grant to prepare elementary candidates. So basically, you know, we don't really have as much trouble recruiting white candidates in STEM, but we have had difficulty recruiting candidates of color. And our partnership is, you know, really needs more candidates of color. So that's a big goal for us. So the main thing I want to say about help with recruiting candidates of color into STEM is partnerships, partnerships, partnerships. You really have to have a strong partnership with the district or districts that you work with. So in our district, we work directly with the district as well as with our partner schools. And we have about 7 partner schools that we place our candidates with. One of the things we've done is what we call pipeline programs. The district has set up, so for example, all the paraprofessionals in the district who have a bachelor's degree, because our program is at the graduate level, they work with those paras who want to be teachers, and they have a thing called the para pipeline. So what the BPS does, the Boston Public Schools, they work with those paras for a year, giving them courses and opportunities to learn to teach. And then they enroll into our Noyce program. Well, our regular program, but some are STEM and some are not. I'll tell you the STEM numbers at the end. So that's one way that we recruit. Again, I'll tell you that, well, I can tell you the numbers as I go. To date, we have had 49 paras apply to the program. 40 of them have been of color and 18 of them have been STEM. Then we have the high school to teacher program. Boston Public Schools has a program for high school students who want to come back to Boston to teach. And we work with that program through City Year. So when the high school students graduate, they do a year in City Year right after high school. Then they go to a 4-year college, come to UMass for 4 years. Then they do a second year in City Year when they graduate with the masters at UMass, and then they go into teaching. And we have had 2 so far who have completed that pipeline. 1 has been of color. None of them, unfortunately, have been STEM. Then BPS has this program called the Accelerated Community to Teacher Program, where they go into the community and they recruit people who have a bachelor's degree and who want to be teachers. Again, they put those people in a program in the BPS for 1 year where they get acquainted with the district and they spend time in classes. Then they apply to teach next year. And then they do the 1-year graduate program, and then they get hired by the district. To date, we have had 40 candidates come in through this program. 27 of those have been of color and 8 have been STEM. Finally, we work with these programs called, you've probably all heard of City Year and Citizen Schools. They have partnerships in Boston for 2-year fellowships. In the second year, any of their candidates who want to teach in Boston apply to our program. And then after they do our program for the year, they get hired by Boston Public Schools. To date, we have had 80 candidates come through that pipeline. 49 of them have been of color and 28 of them have been STEM candidates. So the other thing the Boston Public Schools does is they really support all of our students in hiring. As soon as the year starts, they have a workshop where they tell them how to apply to the BPS. They also interview our candidates. They have we're called a priority pipeline program. So the BPS has our candidates apply and get interviewed well before any openings come online. Then they tell the candidates and us if they didn't do well. We give them feedback on why they didn't do well, and then they get interviewed again. So, and once they're interviewed, they actually get recommended for hire right then, and their name goes out to principals. The other thing that we all do with the BPS is we share data from the start about our candidates. So as soon as we get a class accepted, we send their names, all their information, ethnicity, subject area to the BPS, and then the BPS sends us what they think their hiring needs are going to be. So that's how we do it. We work so closely with the district, and I think this helps the district achieve their goal of STEM teachers, which is a high priority area for them, and also their goal of hiring candidates of color, especially in STEM and other areas. So partnerships, partnerships, partnerships.
Thanks so much, Lisa. And
Sorry if
next
I
up,
talk too fast.
it was perfect. And next up, we have Natalie King. Natalie?
Hi, everyone. My name is Natalie King, and I am so delighted to share about developing STEM professionals as educators and teacher leaders. We call it the DISPEDAL Project. The principal investigator is Dr. Christine Thomas. She's a professor of mathematics education, and I'm a science educator. And so how does this work? So we had our two major goals were to recruit and prepare STEM professionals who were willing to commit to teaching and remain as highly effective teachers in high need middle and high schools. And then we would engage STEM professionals in robust and innovative professional learning experiences to develop as teacher leaders. So the biggest thing was recruitment at first. How do we identify these STEM professionals? How do we get them through the MAT degree program? We're now in the induction phase, and we're transitioning into teacher leadership. We recruited 2 cohorts of 29 teaching fellows, and you can see them here on the slide. And they're all now placed in high need middle and high schools teaching either science or mathematics. So my first recommendation is just to go into the community. You have to go where they are. And so when we put together our grant proposal, we sat with our school districts. We partnered with 2 school districts, and we had existing relationships with those school districts. And so we informed them about the grant project, and we sat down to figure out what is their need. So we didn't have to spend much time in terms of buy-in from the district, because they're the ones that expressed the need to us to have more representation, especially of males, Black males, on their campuses who can serve as STEM teachers and eventually teacher leaders. So our proposal actually stemmed from their problem of practice. Our school partners are also co-PIs on the project. And so as you start thinking about engaging stakeholder partners, the relationships existed prior to the project. When we were thinking about how do we identify the talent, we had a robust interviewing process as well. And so we had 2 rounds of interviews. So once we did the initial screening to see if they met the requirements, the school district partners, as well as professors in science ed and our math education departments, we interviewed them. And we asked them questions. We co-constructed the interview protocol and asked questions such as, describe your experiences and training that you feel have prepared you for a position as a math or science teacher. Where do you see yourself professionally in the next few years? How do you see yourself growing as an educator or leader? And one of the biggest questions that we asked is, as a teacher in a high need school, you will work with diverse student populations with respect to cultural backgrounds, achievement levels, race, ethnicity. So what experiences do you have working in diverse settings? And how do you see your experiences as beneficial to you as a classroom teacher or potential classroom teacher? So we wanted to make sure that we saw the disposition. So it wasn't just the content, but they had the dispositions to be successful as well. In doing so, after we interviewed them, so they interviewed with Georgia State, faculty from Georgia State. They also interviewed with the school partners. We came together and we decided, would they be good for teaching? Would they be good for the MAT degree program? And would they be good for the fellowship? Because those are different answers. You get different responses. Some of them we recommended to do the program, but we didn't think they would be a good fit to teach in high need schools. And so we had a really, really robust plan up front to help with the success that we experienced on the back end in terms of recruitment as well as retention. We also had joint efforts with nonprofit and social organizations. The biggest one was 100 Black Men of South Metro Inc. And so this nonprofit organization, they helped us with recruitment efforts as well. And they focus on building leadership, comprehensive mentoring programs, education, health and wellness. And so we had to identify nonprofit partners who had the relationship with our target populations. We also partnered with local historically Black colleges and universities. So we partnered with Morehouse College, as well as Clark Atlanta. We did information sessions there. We also partnered with a PI who has an NSF STEM project. And the STEM project provides scholarship support for academically talented low-income students who major in biology, chemistry, or neuroscience here at Georgia State. And so what they could do is graduate from that program, and then they would be able to transfer into ours if they had an interest in teaching. We also had secured letters from other local colleges and universities, such as Emory University, Spelman College, Georgia Institute of Technology. We didn't do as much recruitment from them face-to-face as we did with Clark Atlanta and Morehouse, but they did help us to disseminate information to those who were in their STEM majors. We also did social media outlets such as Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. And we targeted engineering societies such as the National Society of Black Engineers in order to help us. We partnered with the school district and participated in their job fairs, as well as our own professional organizations to share the word, and did tabling at NSTA, GSTA, GCTM. And we also made sure that we kept up with our website so that we were able to showcase those who were in cohort 1. And that helped us as we were recruiting for cohort 2.
Great. Thanks so much, Natalie, for the awesome work, and especially for emphasizing, like Andre said, that it's not just about getting people into the classroom, it's about getting the right people in the classroom for the kids that are there. So thank you so much. And now we have Stacey Duffield.
Hi, everyone. I'm from North Dakota State University and have been co-PI on 3 Noyce grants. We started about a decade ago. And just to give you a sense of this context, NDSU secondary program graduates about 90 total secondary teachers a year. Of course, not all of them STEM. And through our 3 grants, we're just creeping up on about 60 participants that have that are either currently in or have fulfilled our Noyce programs. Just to share with you a few of the recruitment strategies, because sometimes it's just hard to find people. And so these are some things that have really worked for us to get students into the program. The first step is that we have an entry survey that we give in our Introduction to Teaching class. And one of the set of questions on there is to express their interest across different content areas. And I would look at the results of those surveys, and if anyone expressed even moderate interest in any of the STEM fields, I did a personal outreach to those students, told them about the Noyce opportunities, and encouraged them to check it out. We also, of course, as others have mentioned, reached out across listservs for science education and educators both at the higher education and high school levels so that we'd get the word out, and to high school counselors as well so that they could talk to their incoming students that were looking at college about this opportunity if they were thinking about STEM or STEM education. We did direct recruiting at college fairs and visits. I went to my admissions office and I said, can I go to the college fairs along with you? And as Thomas said, it just takes a lot of time and effort, right? So I stood at the college fair in Minnesota, which is a huge college fair. If you've ever been to that one, it's enormous, a lot of feet on the ground for that college fair. I stood there for 3 days and tried to recruit people into our secondary education and STEM and told them about Noyce. We also provided information for all of our university recruiters to share when they were on the road. I spent a lot of hours at on-campus events like our Discover Days when we brought people to campus, talking to parents and students about the opportunity. We had tables at every single internal event, majors fair for undecided students, graduate fairs, everything. We were there. We did lots of class visits on campus, where, out in the content areas and the STEM areas. We visited introductory education classes to recruit. And then we asked our content area colleagues to send out emails to their students to let them know about the opportunities, just anything to get the news in front of them. Finally, we really communicated a lot with external partners, like our school partners. We would request lists of schools that had unfilled positions from our State Department to find out if they had open STEM positions and what they were doing about it, like if they were filling it with an unqualified teacher or a substitute. And then we would target them with our NAT program grant and try to get them into our program and serve and help them earn their degree from a distance. And we actually got quite a few into our NAT program that way. And because they were not a certified teacher, they were just filling a gap in and helping out the school. And so we got them qualified that way. I'm really working on making the program accessible and helping out our rural schools especially. And I know I talked really fast, but I also want to just extend that if anybody wants to visit with me further, I have no problem. Shoot me an email, give me a phone call, and I would love to share any of this with you and give you more details if you want it.
Well, thanks so much, Stacey, and thanks for emphasizing the connection with unfilled positions and the importance of rural school partners. So I think we got a great whirlwind tour of a sample of 5 different people who've been recruiting and sharing tips. Thank you so much for your presentations. We're going to move into the next portion that will allow everyone to participate in the discussion. All right, it looks like everyone's back. Thanks. I hope everybody had a good conversation in your breakout. In just a moment, we'll switch topics, but please take a minute if you feel so moved to drop in anything you shared in the discussion or that you learned that you think would be particularly helpful to share with the full group so that we can keep the discussion thread going. And since the portion so far has been brought to you by the letter R, we'll switch from recruitment to retention. And we have another lineup of outstanding presenters, Doug Larkin, Ann Cavallo, Wong Ji Chen, and Paige Evans. So again, feel free to drop in any questions or tips in the chat. And without further ado, take over, Doug.
Thanks, everybody. So I like to make lists and just to introduce our work at Montclair State University. Dr. Sandra Adams and I co-lead 2 Noyce programs. One is a track 1 undergraduate program, scholarship program, and the other is a track 4 research program where we're looking at issues of science teacher retention. So we're going to talk about 2 types of retention, both in the Noyce program as scholars and then afterwards in the profession. So the first thing on the list here, Noyce scholars should have a defined identity. They should feel a sense of belonging in the program, but this can only happen if they have something to belong to. So one of the things that we do is number 2 there, we have regular events and meetings of Noyce scholars. And I'm thinking of what Andre Green was talking about earlier with basically making a big deal out of your Noyce scholars. But even if there's nothing special going on, just having those regular meetings between the scholars and the program coordinators can create channels for communication and problem solving. And then especially point 3 there, using those meetings to talk about advising. We find that many of our Noyce scholars, they're both undergraduate majors and they're in teacher education, and sometimes they're sand in the gears when it comes to actually completing all the coursework that they need to do. Some of it is scheduling, but really if we can talk about advising with them, we can solve a lot of problems proactively. The 4th issue is taking critical issues seriously. Like many college students, undergraduate and graduate alike, Noyce scholars can suffer from food and housing insecurity, physical and or emotional abuse from a partner, or challenges with mental health. And you know, these are all issues that we've worked with our Noyce scholars on. And you as the PI may be the first person they feel most comfortable talking to at your institution. And you can direct them to the right resources if you know what they are, or you can figure out what they are. Number 5, encourage peer-to-peer contact. I find that many students now create a group me or they talk to one other on WhatsApp or some other text message thing. But it's nice when they communicate without us being involved, and they should have each other as a resource as well. Number 6 there, every once in a while we have someone whose GPA slips, or maybe they're not taking things seriously. And we found it a successful tool to sometimes pause a scholarship for a semester. Sometimes it's strategic because we want to make sure that they're funded for that 4th and last semester. And if it's going to take them longer to graduate, making sure that they have that support during the most difficult time of the program, which is the clinical year. But it's a nice reality check for students to even just raise the possibility. Another thing that we've done, and I credit my colleague Don Lovett at the College of New Jersey for this suggestion for a scholarship program he ran, is that we encourage our students, and we actually have a little form that we have them fill out. We want them to go to office hours to talk to their professors, particularly the ones in the upper level science and math courses, about the course content. You know, have them bring the last exam or to talk to them. It was easier on Zoom actually this semester for them to do that. But it's something that reinforces the content aspect of the program. 8, I think everybody here knows, you know, providing the Noyce scholars opportunities to be the ambassadors of their program. They're the ones who can talk about the program the best. Number 9, follow up with them. Always double check to make sure that the scholarship or stipend has gone through and applied to tuition if that's how you run your program, or if you've referred them to someone for help. Double checking with them to see how it went. Celebrate milestones. We have a graduation celebration, and we invite family, friends, cooperating teachers, teacher ed partners, school partners, and we have them, we use a portfolio, and each graduate gives a brief presentation. And we also bring back graduates to talk with the Noyce scholars, to sort of give some real talk about the first year teaching. So in the minute I have left, I'll talk briefly about retention in the profession. I think we've already talked a little bit about helping with the hiring process. We find if we can get pairs of Noyce graduates hired at the same school or district, it really helps during that first year. We also have an induction coaching program. We have induction coaches who go out and visit, and they are completely disconnected from the teacher evaluation process. And we stay in contact with them. We all get those items for professional development, campus speakers, forward it to your Noyce grads. And then make it possible for the graduates to feel they can reach out to you. Sometimes the Noyce grads just need to talk about the big stuff, whether to stay in teaching, whether to move districts. And if they know they can talk to you, then you can help them. And the last 2, encourage them to use and develop their personal and professional networks. Again, that can be the text with the Noyce scholars, state conferences, listservs, department chairs. There are many, but we don't want them to be isolated in silos. And then the last thing, our track 4 work is showing that those 3 constructs, the fit in the organization, the links that they make, and the things that they can count on as assets, both within the organization and the community, are a key to teacher retention. So working on any role of this can increase the likelihood of retention.
Great.
Thanks
so much, Doug. And I'd encourage each of you to reach out to Doug to learn more about exactly what he's finding in the track 4 project that could be of use to you in your work. And next up, we have Ann Cavallo. Ann?
Yes, hi everyone. So a little bit about UTA. UT Arlington is Research One. It's a diverse Hispanic serving institution. It's in the center of the Dallas-Fort Worth metropolitan area. We have had 4 Noyce Track 1 scholarship programs. The years are listed there. And they are for undergraduate STEM majors in the UTeach program, which was initiated in 2010. And the post-bac certification students are also eligible if they have a STEM degree. The total Noyce scholars we've recruited in these 4 programs is 189. And the graduates still teaching is 84%. And all but 1 or 2 are still in high need school districts. So retention, some of our strategies we've used are, first of all, we have school-based mentor teachers during their years of induction for 2 to 4 years, and they receive a stipend from the grant, a small stipend, and they work with our scholars. We keep in touch with them through their first 2 years. The scholars can choose them, or if the school district already chooses them, they then we use that person. It's up to the scholar really. but it can be a different person than the school district uses, and somebody that can help them through their first 2 years. And now it's becoming so that they are our own graduates, because we've had, since we've been here since 2008, now they are tending to be in the same schools with our graduated Noyce scholars, which works out really well. We have a UTA Noyce scholar leader on our program, and she has been with us from the beginning, and she's a retired experienced science and math teacher. She visits each scholar every year. She visits the mentor teacher, they talk, they discuss, she provides guidance and feedback and lots of resources to our scholars. We also host Noyce Scholar Learning Seminars, or they can attend on their own some professional development scholar seminars where it is in their discipline or about teaching, and it's above and beyond, what they might be getting in the classroom on specific topics. We send them out to them so they can register. That could be that we take them all to conferences. We do go to a lot of conferences together as a group. One of the big things I think that helps with retention is building that camaraderie, that sense of belonging, and where they feel like they're part of a group and a team, and we're together and they help one another. And so some of them are seminars institute, but we do have 2 at least on campus that they're required to attend, and this includes those that are in the program now, and we also, those that have graduated, and they attend as well. And there's the welcome orientation for new scholars, and again, by building that sense of belonging and camaraderie, they attend. And we did it virtually during COVID. And then at the end of the academic year, it's a meetup, and we have an agenda. We have a program that we also, do some professional development, but make it fun too, and interactive. But there's a celebration of graduates as well. So they are attended by, like I said, both. And we often ask the scholars who have graduated to speak and advise the current scholars. And then we also have a near-peer mentor program where the graduate scholars, of course, they meet during these seminars and they mentor 2 to 3 scholars. And they may, bring them in their classrooms or socially, and they give them feedback that maybe they might not learn in a formal classroom. So it's things that, that they went through the program together, or not. They may have not even met each other, but they know the program and how it works. And so they can really talk to each other about things that maybe they might not get from us as the PIs or the instructors. And then we also have social media that we use, like social media like Facebook and Instagram accounts, and we keep maintain that group and that sense of belonging and that camaraderie, and they share resources with one another on Facebook. So that's about all I have.
Great. Thanks so much for sharing your tips, Anne. And it's time for our next presenter, Wong Ji Chen.
Hello, everyone. It's very nice to meet you all, and thank you for the opportunity to share our Noyce project. My name is Wong Ji Chen, and I'm a math educator at Cal State University, San Marcos. We are located in San Diego County, so that is a very populated area. So recruitment is usually not an issue. Our Track 1 project recruits both math and science teachers, and we provide a maximum of 3 years of a Noyce scholarship, 2 undergraduate years and 1 credential year. In California, the credential program is usually post-baccalaureate. So I'm gonna share a few strategies, and then a lot of strategies are already provided by Doc and Anne. So it's kind of a reiterate some of the strategies. First, we try to select committed Noyce scholar. I think this is respond to earlier presentation by Andre Green. We look at the application essay carefully. We interview each student and we debrief after each interview. And if necessary, we do reference checks. We ask professor and other people to give us some ideas. It's hard to predict if a student will persist or not, but we do our best. Second, we sent Noyce scholars to STEM education and noise conferences. This is to we said to build or to cultivate STEM teaching identities. And every semester we send them to conferences, some math and science conferences, and they hang out with their fellow noise scholars and also many teachers, which help with cultivating the identity. And I think it's related to retention. And not surprising, we have a lot of meetings, monthly meetings, and also informal gatherings. So this is the advising and mentoring piece. I want to particularly comment on informal gatherings. Before COVID, my office was always open and a few scholars would always come in and have a chat. And I also spent a lot of Friday afternoons sitting with a group of 6 or 7 undergraduate noise scholars in front of our student union. And they build a very good relationship and it helps retention. Next, I would like to talk about we call the noise dinner meetings. This is the most popular event among the noise scholars. Perhaps it's because we provide food and alcoholic drinks. We do it every semester. This is the venue where everybody, including the noise alumni already teaching in the fields, current noise scholars and professors to mingle. We also invite some prospective noise scholars to join us. So this is to build relationship. And at the meeting, I continually and repeatedly remind that we try to build a noise network, and we are part of the nationwide noise network. And our primary goal is to enhance the STEM education and workforce. We are a big part of something big. This understanding often gives some purpose and meaning of what we are doing. And I think it's related to attention. Next, I would like to talk about some specific strategy for our undergraduates. And we have a group of STEM faculty, we call them the faculty champions of teacher recruitments. In addition to recruitment, they also, some of them, not everybody, but some of them also mentor students. Particularly, there was a math, during COVID pandemic, there was a math noise candidate or noise scholar who was thinking about dropping. She is the first generation college student. And fortunately, we had the math faculty who spent hours and hours with her, mentoring her and also providing academic support, psychology support. So that was very nice. And so we have the group of faculty to help with the retention piece. And earlier I talked about cultivating STEM teacher identities. For undergraduate, we have the STEM ambassadors. So in our local schools, middle school and elementary schools. So they spend time with middle school students and get some early teaching experience. And they had fun. It is an enjoyable experience, and enjoyment helps retention. In addition, the STEM ambassadors spend a lot of time working together in the STEM outreach labs. So again, this builds relationship and it helps retention. Finally, for credential candidates and alumni, it means noise scholar already teaching in the fields. We have a network. We have a cohort model in the credential to get a lot of support, and I visit classrooms, and we have the network, we have social media, and I encourage them, as I think Anne said, we encourage them to contact each other and so on. So in summary, it takes a village to retain noise scholars, and it's useful to collaborate with other projects and the initiatives and all sorts of colleagues in and out of campus. Hope it helps. Thank you.
Excellent. Thanks so much, Wong Ji. And we have one more retention presenter to hear from, Paige Evans.
All right. Hopefully everyone can hear me. Thank you so much for this opportunity to share some information about our program's retention. Some of what I'm going to say was already said in previous presentations, so hopefully that's okay. I'm the Associate Director of the University of Houston STEM Teacher Preparation Program, Teach Houston. We have had great success with our program and attribute a lot of our growth to the NSF Noyce grants over the years. We currently have a Noyce Track 1, a Track 3, as well as a grant and a 1-year no-cost extension. We started Teach Houston in 2007 and have 415 graduates. 90% of our graduates enter teaching. Out of those 90%, 95% are teaching in Greater Houston. 80% are teaching in high need schools and 88% teach beyond 5 years. So that's with our whole program, but with our Noyce graduates, our percentages are even higher. First, I'm going to talk about retention in the program. We have a high quality program with excellent faculty. We have very small classes, early and ongoing field experiences, and provide lots of support to our students. Faculty engage in one-on-one mentoring, and we have a dedicated advisor that helps students matriculate through the program. I believe one of the most important ingredients in our program is the community building we do in and out of classes. We have a student society mentoring program where they mentor each other, and we also organize study groups. Additionally, we have networking events, socials, community service, and professional development opportunities. And while we support them through and into their professional teaching careers, they also support each other. We do our best to build connections and relationships between our students and create an atmosphere where the students are collaborative and help each other out. The relationships are strengthened in coursework as students are intentionally grouped in STEM learning communities. The learning roles are assigned and rotated on a regular basis. Faculty intentionally group and regroup the STEM learning communities to capitalize on their strengths and the strengths of their peers. So rather than the instructor's problem solving for students, students are encouraged to support one another on tasks such as keeping up with due dates and other things like content and lesson plans. They are monitored for individual and group contributions, and we adapt our coursework to support these developing partnerships and relationships. So the bonds that they form in Teach Houston last long beyond their college years. And that's what's important in our retention. So in their final semester, we do our best to assist them in their job searches. We know which schools are supportive of new teachers, and we are well connected with the school districts. We also try to have, as other people mentioned, multiple graduates in the same school so that they can help each other out. And then after graduation, we also have an induction program. Each semester, we have a new teacher academy that prepares them for the beginning of their teaching careers. It is very well attended. We reach out to them periodically throughout the first year via texting, phone, and emails. Also, each semester, we have networking events, both in person and online. We have an alumni association and also invite them to conferences, especially the Noyce conferences. Those are so important to have a community bigger than U of H. We also invite them back to host PDs for the new teacher academy, as well as other professional development events. And so all of this keeps them connected. Overall, for us, it's about connecting with them and connecting them with each other. So that's about it. Thank you. And reach out to me if you have any questions.
Great. Thanks so much, Paige. And nice to see some similar threads of connections throughout both the recruiting and retention portions. We're going to move into some breakouts focused on retention. Great. Well, welcome back, everyone. I hope you had a good conversation around retention. Our team's been chatting during the break, and we want to add a lot of these great tips to the Noyce site to build out some more resources around recruitment and retention. And I'd really like to take some time and have everybody give a virtual round of applause to our amazing presenters. Thank you, Andre, Beth, Lisa, Natalie, Stacey, Doug, Anne, Wong Ji, and Paige for taking the time to put these great tips together for us. We really appreciate it, and it just are a few examples of the wonderful Noyce community members that we have, and we hope some more of you will present with us in the future or share your tips in Arise blogs and in other venues. In just a moment, we're going to transition to some breakouts with program officers. But while we do, we'd love to do one more video of scholars and fellows to be able to ground us before you break out with your program officers, so that we're grounded in the ultimate purpose of producing excellent STEM teachers for high need schools. So here we go.
So I would think one of my most successful lessons is something that I participated in last year. It was actually a project that lasted throughout a semester, and it was called SMILE, and that stands for Seeing Myself in the Library Everywhere. We invited 4th and 5th grade students to participate in evaluating who is represented in the books in our library. And so we created this project that would put together math and social justice, and we learned a lot about how people identify with their health by different races. And then we just collected data on the books in our library, over 1,000 books. We pulled off the shelf, looked to see who's represented, what races were represented, and then we compiled all that data and compared it to the racial makeup of our school. And we realized that there was a huge difference in the books that were in our school and the students that are in our school. And so we were able actually to find an outside grant that would support us purchasing new books for our school in order to sort of make that who's represented in the library and who's represented in our school better match. So we got over 100 new books for our library, and then our students were able to read some of them and create book talks to try to get their peers to want to read these new books with diverse characters. And I also saw the team of educators that I worked with really grow in this process and learn a lot about project-based learning, and combining math and social justice. It was great for both the students and the teachers to participate.
One of my most successful lessons to this day, and why I think it was most successful, is any lesson really where I incorporate culturally relevant math teaching. I like to bring in things that are relevant to my students, whether it's pop culturally relevant or ethnic foods that are important to them. And one that really reminds me just of how excited they were and how excited I was we were doing a lesson on proportional reasoning. And most books talk about making the perfect lemonade or the perfect iced tea, but those things just didn't resonate with my students. So when I changed it to be traditional Mexican drink, which is horchata, they were just so excited about it, and many of them describe like being able to taste it while they're learning how to make it, and it was just beautiful to see them expand it even further. That they started looking at other cultures and drinks that were important to them. So it started off as like a small lesson that kind of just morphed into something much larger than that.
Some of my kids, they really listen to a lot of music during quarantine, where they listen to certain rappers, certain musician artists and whatnot. So what we did was we created an activity that had the students do research on some of their favorite artists and musicians and whatnot, and they had to work out it was really back again to statistics, a project where they got to look at their sales of records, of albums, and in which populations did it sell more and in which locations. So teaching the students how to be researchers, how in essence to do their homework, but how to back up their statements with facts.
Knowing my community being as diverse as it is, I had to, figure out a way to bring in other cultures that's not me, because I'm Native American. And, for a lot of other teachers, it's the reverse. They're of a different culture trying to come into a diverse area. But see, for me, I'm already immersed in it by being a member. So for me, it was just learning how to bring in the other cultures. And luckily for me, where we live, we're mostly Native American, we're mostly Latinx, we're mostly Caucasian white. So I've lived here my whole life. And so for me, really, it was just learning how to bring in like more of the white and the Hispanic culture and just get them to, immerse into what I do and what we're about, and just bring it all together. And I got a lot of that out of the teacher program because, Fort Lewis, again, the program there is really built on trying to keep being cultural competent and really embrace the diversity that in the area, because a lot of us in that program do intend to go back to our home areas and our home schools. And for a good portion of us, that was reservation areas, and that's low service communities, and that's rural areas. So, you know, it really, whatever we were learning at school and in the teacher ed department really focused on that. And it just, you know, it resonated. And even now, I mean, it's like they were right about everything that they taught us.
That's what a lot of your recruitment and retention efforts lead to. We're about to move into the next section of our program and go into the breakouts with program officers. But just really quick before we do, I'd be remiss if I didn't thank my team, without whom none of this would have happened today, and lots of great resources wouldn't be possible. So starting in reverse order, Thomas Vague was responsible for the editing of that great video that you saw. Lauren Manier has kept everything running with this program and works on the newsletter. Betty Callinger coordinated with our presenters today and does the wonderful interviews with alumni. So thank you to those who are recommending alumni. Betty also does the project locator. So if you haven't sent her your info, please send it. But I'm blessed to work with an amazing team. So thank you, Betty, Lauren, and Thomas. And now we'll move into discussions with NSF program officers. So these are the program officers who were with us today. All of them on the screen except for Sandra and Mindy will have breakout rooms, and welcome Mindy, but want to thank Sandra for her leadership, Tom for all of the work planning this event and the other new awardee and mentoring session that we had, as well as, of course, Kathleen Bergen, Vaughn Green, Bob Mays, Sue Carson, Jennifer Lewis, and thank you for all you've done for the program, Jennifer, and John Haddock. So getting into breakouts,